Hello Duelist, it's Tom Box here, welcome to MST.TV, and I've got a card discussion for you guys, and perhaps I want to bring this card to light. Perhaps you guys already heard about it, but it's another trap card from Flame of Destruction. Now, this is starting to look like a set where it's going to contain a lot more traps than normal, and perhaps they're trying to push traps forward, because if you think about the current state of traps, they're not very strong. I mean, most people don't really play traps as much anymore. They have like 1 or 2 traps in the deck, and they're really reliant on hand traps and powerful quick play spells. But anyways, that's not what we're talking about here today. Today, we are going to be talking about the card of the day, Infinite Transience. Looks like Cyber Dragon Infinity took a beating, but is still going to throw a little bit of effort to stopping you from doing something. And what is that something? The card text states, well, target one face-up monster your opponent controls. It has its effects negated until the end of this turn. Also, if this card is activated while it was set, negate the effects of other spells and traps in this card's column this turn. If you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. Wow, it's like breakthrough skill that you can activate from your hand. That's exactly what it sounds like. However, there is a point to be made about this card that actually is quite different. So regarding this card, the first thing that comes to mind is that this card is useful whether you're going first or second, because it's live whether you're going first or second. If you go first, your opponent has nothing, you set this card, you get an additional effect out of the card. If you're going second, you're watching your opponent go, you can use this card exactly like Effect Veiler. But on top of that, if you're going second, your opponent puts out like a Floodgate monster. You can use this card basically like a Forbidden Chalice. You can negate the monster's effect without worrying about anything really, and it's just a free negation for you, allowing you to open that floodgate so that you can actually special spell summon like crazy, whether it be like a Fossil Dino or Vanity's Fiend. So number 1 point, this makes this card really awesome. As a trap card, it is pretty fast. Second point to be made is you have a choice. If it's later on in the game, you can weigh that the second effect of this card is much better than the first one. If you're aiming to negate spells and traps rather than just the monster effect, then yeah, you do want to set that card. And that's actually going to change up the mentality of how cards are going to be set. This was mentioned before when we were playing cards like with the archetype of Magical Musketeer, where the columns do matter. Don't activate spells and traps in the same column. Well, this one is kind of the same deal. Don't set your spells and traps in the same column as your opponent, because it's going to be a very difficult time for you to know when your stuff is going to be negated. Imagine if you activated a Pot of Desires, you banish your 10 cards, you're like, he already played his Ash Blossom, Joyous Spring, there's no way he can stop me, and then he flips this card, negates one of your monster, and then stuns the card row 2. And when everything in that column is basically negated, so you're just banishing 10 cards for no reason. You're giving yourself a very heavy minus. You can potentially even protect your back row if you hit like a Twin Twister with this card. But of course, here I'm talking about getting lucky against your opponent, but sometimes you can pre-plan it, especially when your opponent goes first, and then it's your turn, you see that he set some back row, you can also set your card. If you have this card, you would set it in the exact same row, and that would actually screw them over. If you're worried about counter traps against you, say, if the game actually gets to a point where it's slow enough for that, you can preemptively activate this card, where if he does activate his counter trap, it will be negated. So there's a bit of a balancing thing here, and it's really good to kind of maximize your strategy around this card too if you do run this card. But that's just my opinion, just based off of reading this card. So whether you're going first or second, this card's good, and whether or not you want to use the monster effect negation or you want to stun the back row, this is also, you know, a choice that's up to you, whether you want to prioritize one effect over the other. Anyways, so for my final thoughts regarding this card, this is definitely one of those cards that I would keep 3 copies of, whether it be for my side deck binder or like potential side deck options, because in my opinion, I think that the column mechanic is eventually going to explode. Just like when Pendulums came out, they really sucked a lot. They weren't very good whatsoever until they gave us the structure deck, or perhaps Clifford's was a good example of, I guess, a decent Pendulum deck. But before that, things are kind of really wishy-washy, not very good. And then there's going to be one column deck that just abuses the crap out of everything. And then you're going to realize, oh, this card's actually pretty good, man. I can bait my opponent into playing cards in the same column. It's going to be his weakness because that's the only way he can maximize his effect. Perhaps there's going to be an archetype that, you know, is based off of column-based traps, or perhaps it can activate or speed up their deck through columns. we know something like that is eventually going to happen. It's going to power creep up, and then it's just going to be like, oh my god, columns are so broken. But then it's just another way of playing the game. So that's actually one of the things I kind of want to point out. And another point that I really kind of want to make here is I believe Konami is experimenting. They want to bring traps back. If you look at how traps are currently being played right now, even the most notable Solemn Brigade isn't getting as much action as we thought. Like, we have people putting in Solemn Scolding, and that's about it, mainly to stop evenly matched and other really significant plays. But aside from that, strikes and warning, they're not exactly seeing as much play as we would like, perhaps because it just isn't effective right now in the current format. I mean, what's the point of using a Solemn Strike against a Sleeper when Sleeper has something equipped that prevented from being destroyed anyway? So what's the point in that? And it seems like all these Solemn Traps are too slow. You only want to play it when you're going first. You can set it all up just to prevent your opponent from going off. But what if they have the Twin Twisters? They Twin Twister it off and they still go off because combo decks only require 2 to 3 cards to combo. So your Solemn Strikes don't exactly do enough if their 4th and 5th card is a Twin Twister. So it's kind of gotten to that point, and most people don't want to expose their counters through, well, back row. It doesn't do enough. But having something like this card here, where it actually stuns the next card being played, it might balance it out a little bit. And like, since it's not like a heavy cost or anything, rather than adding a cost to a trap card, it's offering you more effects by playing it. It balances out a little bit better, and I think this R&D might change up how future trap cards are going to be designed. This might just be a Konami experiment to see how far they can take like trap cards that can be activated from hand, or perhaps the power of trap cards. Because if you actually look at trap cards right now, they need to be ridiculously good at what they do, to the point where they are basically imbalanced, or we're not going to play them at all, which kind of defeats the purpose of trap cards altogether. But we have Sanctums, but Sanctums, the reason why Sanctums are good is because it stuns your opponent from being able to play the game. D-Barrier stuns your opponent from being able to play with their extra deck, or the rituals, or whatever fusions that they have. You kind of get the point where trap cards right now, it's all about preventative play rather than interacting with your opponent. It's all just about shutting them down. So maybe if we have something like this coming forward, perhaps it could answer the questions of, will hand traps ever be shifted out of the format in favor of traps again? This might be the first step going towards that. And that's just my opinion here. I would love to hear your thoughts regarding, the upcoming traps of the format. Leave your comments down in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you guys enjoyed this video, I'm trying to build up my content once again. And hopefully I'll get my next dueling content with Glad Beast. And if you guys enjoyed this video, hit me up with thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more stuff from MST.TV. And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job. And you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.